to live in our neighborhood. God's willingness to be a vulnerable human and a vulnerable child. May the light of Christ warm our hearts and light our way as we share the joy of God's salvation wherever we go. Amen. It's time to visit our first hymn, and there is an overwhelming majority. We will be singing, "O Come All Ye Faithful." 62% of you want to sing, "O Come All Ye Faithful." So if you wanted to sing "Away in a Manger" and "What Child Is This?" Sorry, try again next year. Actually, we'll probably be singing most of those in the coming weeks. But would you stand, if you are able, stand in body or in spirit as we sing hymn number 234, "O Come All Ye Faithful." You can be seated. Welcome to those who are joining us online. We've had quite an evening so far, but I'm so glad that you are able to be with us now. Our first reading this evening is from the book of Genesis. It's Genesis chapter 1, verses 1 through 5. In the beginning, when God created the heavens and the earth was a formless void, and darkness covered the face of the deep, while a wind from God swept over the face of the waters. Then God said, "Let there be light," and there was light. And God saw that the light was good, and God separated the light from the darkness. God called the light day, and the darkness he called night. And there was evening, and there was morning, the first day. The word of God for the people of God, and thanks be to God. I'd like to ask our Grace Notes choir to come forward. And as the Grace Notes choir is coming forward, and as they are singing, I'm going to ask all of you to once again choose our next hymn after the choir sings.
Shining in the night, can you fix your gaze and look into its light? In the snow you see reflections of the King, brilliant are his eyes, see them glistening. Do you see us?
Thank you so much. Grace notes. I feel like now's a good time to say, 1 year during Christmas Eve, see those candles up there? The poinsettias got a little bit too close to the flames. So, with everything that's happening, I feel like you guys have eyes on that, right? All right, cool. We're going to leave the voting open just a tiny bit longer because it was a little bit delayed in getting started, but this one's close. This is a close one. So if you've got a preference, man, this is tight. So we're going to leave it open for just another 30 seconds. So, if you're calling in favors right now, if you're watching online, your vote counts. So squeeze some concessions out of the people that are here if you want. See what you can do. Harry, you think you can belt us out the first Noel? Yeah. Where is it? Yeah, it's somewhere in the hymnal. 245? It's hymnal's on the spot right there. Because this didn't quite update the way we thought it was going to. The first Noel is a surprise entry into the fray, but I think if we I think we can probably get it going. With 43% of the vote, the first Noel wins our next hymn challenge. It is hymn number 245. Our gospel reading this evening comes from the Gospel of John. It's John chapter 1, verses 1 through 14. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. He was in the beginning with God. All things came into being through him, and without him, not one thing came into being. What has come into being, in him was life, and the life was the light of all people. The light shines in the darkness, and the darkness did not overcome it. There was a man sent from God whose name was John. He came as a witness to testify to the light, so that all might believe through him. He himself was not the light, but he came to testify to the light. The true light, which enlightens everyone, was coming into the world. He was in the world, and the world came into being through him, yet the world did not know him. He came to what was his own, and his own people did not accept him. But to all who received him, who believed in his name, he gave power to become children of God, who were born not of blood or of the will of the flesh or of the will of man, but of God. And the Word became flesh and lived among us. And we have seen his glory, the glory as of a father's only son, full of grace and truth. The word of God for the people of God, and thanks be to God. I went to seminary in Dayton, Ohio. I'm not looking for sympathy. Oh, maybe a little bit. The only problem with that is while I was going to seminary, I lived in Altoona, Pennsylvania. I am looking for sympathy. No, I'm just kidding. And while I lived in Altoona, I had two churches, which of course was a full-time appointment. And it wasn't all that long ago. It wasn't all that long ago that I was in seminary. So Michelle and I were married, and the kids were 12 and 3 in the middle of seminary. And I remember this one time. It was an especially busy time. There was a ton of stuff happening at the church and lots of things happening at home. And I had to drive to Dayton for one of my 10-day intensive sessions. And it was hard to leave because there was so much going on. And you know those days, like I was way, way, way later than I wanted to leave, and nothing, you know those days when nothing seems to be going right? I don't know. I don't have the, no, I'm just kidding. It was hard to leave. And so I finally was able to put in the address into my GPS, and I kid you not, the first direction that the voice of the GPS said, this was the first direction, it said, start out going southwest on Northeast Street. That was the direction. Start out going southwest on Northeast Street. And I never felt so in tune with my GPS ever in my entire life. I was like, yeah, that's how it feels. It feels like I'm going southwest on Northeast Street. It absolutely feels that way. And that's the way the entire thing started. That's how the trip started. The way things begin can set the tone for absolutely anything and everything. The way things begin is really important. Walt Disney knew this. When he designed Disney World, he wanted to make sure that there was this grand reveal of Cinderella's castle as you walked in. That's why when you scan your $6,424 ticket at the turnstile of Disney World, you can't see the castle. You can't see it. You have to scan the ticket, and then you have to walk underneath the railroad station, and then through the tunnel, and when you come out of the tunnel, you are right down the middle of Main Street, USA, with Cinderella's 199-foot castle spires looming in the background. Because Walt Disney knew that the way things begin is really important. That feeling that you get when things start is really, really important. It is completely obvious to me that John, the disciple who wrote this gospel, knew that the way things begin was of the utmost importance. A couple of weeks ago in church, we went over how each gospel writer begins their gospel. So here's the super fast review. Matthew begins his gospel with the genealogy of Jesus. Snooze fest. Luke begins with his qualifications and why he chose to write this story about Jesus. Mark doesn't have time for anybody's nonsense. Mark, this is literally how the Gospel of Mark begins. The beginning of the good news of Jesus Christ the Messiah. And then he just goes into the story. And then there's John. Then there's this gospel. And it's kind of out there. It's very different than the others. But there's one thing about the start of John's gospel that cannot be overlooked, and it's the first 3 words. The first 3 words that lead off the Gospel of John are, in the beginning. And that might not seem like a big deal, but it is. It's a huge deal because the first 3 words of the Hebrew Bible, of the Old Testament, the first 3 words of the Bible in the book of Genesis is also in the beginning. And there's just no possible way that that's an accident. When whoever wrote Genesis decided to write in the beginning, they went on to tell the story of a brand new creation. They went on to tell the story of a God whose love brought about creation. They went on to tell the story of a God who was involved in the lives of human beings and the story of human beings' response to God. That's what happened at the start of Genesis. And then John comes along, and John's like, I got to write a gospel. And he's sitting at his laptop, and he's like, how do I start? How do I start this gospel? And he's like, I don't know. He types a few things, and then he erases them, and then he comes up, and then he goes, I got it. And he starts his gospel with the words, in the beginning. Because this is a big deal. The story of Jesus is a marker on the journey. It's a story that brings about a second creation, a new way for God to interact with God's people. It makes perfect sense. John writes in the beginning and then tells the story of a brand new creation. Tells the story of a God who was not only involved but became human in order to know us and in order to love us. John writes the story of a human's response to God. It makes perfect sense. This is a new creation, and all creation narratives begin with the words, in the beginning. John used these words to convey how much of a big deal this is. The birth of Christ brings a new beginning to all of the earth. Of course, then John goes on to describe the fact that the Word became flesh and dwelled among us. In Eugene Peterson's The Message translation, it's a paraphrase of the Bible. Eugene Peterson writes this, the Word of God became flesh and blood and moved into our neighborhood. And I love that. And then this is what I think we get to latch onto as modern day disciples. John goes on to say that the light, Jesus, the light shines in the darkness, and the darkness cannot overcome it. And I think it's so important that John says that the light and the darkness exist together. I think that's really important. The light shines in the darkness. The light doesn't overwhelm the darkness and cause it to stop existing. The light and the darkness exist on the same plane, but the darkness can also never, ever overcome the light. As we talk about our existence as a church, and in the big things that happened in 2024, I think it's really important to remember that truth. Jesus, the light of the world, has come into our lives. And we're so excited to celebrate that today and every day. But we also have to remember and know that there is darkness in the world. Just because we know Jesus, that doesn't mean that pain is taken away. Just because we know Jesus, it doesn't mean that hurt is automatically healed and that we don't experience loss of any kind. We just know that those things don't get the last word. We just know that that darkness can never overcome that light. We just know that we are actively trying to share and find ways to share the light. But darkness still exists. Too many times in churches, we've been told, well, if you're experiencing a piece of darkness, it's because you don't have enough faith. And that's wrong. That's not even biblical. We just read the light shines in the darkness. That means they both still exist. It means they both still exist, but the darkness will never overcome the light. The darkness will never, ever overcome the light. I want to share with you a couple of ways tonight. I want to share with you a couple of ways that Grace United Methodist Church in Lemoyne has shared light. This is by no means an exhaustive list. This is just a list. And it tells the story of light shining in the darkness. It tells the story of the absolutely incredible year Grace Church had. In 2024, we were able to pay our full shares of ministry to the Susquehanna Conference. And that means that we were able to financially support our conference in ministry. So what does that mean? Well, practically, on a practical level, that means that kids will learn about Jesus at places like Wesley Forest, the best church camp there is. It means that young people will grow in their leadership because of ministries like the Young People's Ministry Council, where students can try out their leadership style. It means that students will get the education they need in places like Africa University, which our conference supports at a huge level. And why did this happen? Because of your generosity. Why did this happen? Because light shines in the darkness. Because the light shines in the darkness, our church, Grace United Methodist Church in Lemoyne, will begin hosting a high-quality daycare facility in our building. As you were coming in today, did you say to everybody in the car, "What's the fence doing in the parking lot?" That's the playground. That's the playground because the state of Pennsylvania requires an ample-sized playground for a daycare facility. And so we were like, parking lot? And a fence went up, and now there's going to be a playground in our parking lot. We're going to begin hosting a high-quality daycare facility. It's going to change a lot of the ways we do things around here. From 0 kids in the building from Monday through Saturday to 70 kids in the building from Monday through Friday is a big jump. But every single neighborhood study that we did, formally and informally, every single one showed us that there was a major need for high-quality daycare in our immediate area. And so, when the opportunity presented itself, we said we want to be light in the darkness. The church council recently decided to use some funds that had been collecting for mission. And we are sending a large contribution to Mama Arlene and her ministry in Rwanda so that children can continue to be educated. Mama Arlene is, I think she's 96 years old. Mama, if you're watching and you're not, I'm sorry. You don't look a day over 92. We're sending a huge donation to her so that she can continue the work that she's doing in Rwanda of educating children. This is a 96-year-old woman who started this facility 20 years ago. So you do the math. And it's incredible. And we get to partner with her. Why? Because light shines in the darkness. And in India, we have sent funds to India for our dear friends at Carmel Ministries, and they are going to build an auditorium on their campus. And you know what that auditorium is going to be called? It's going to be called Grace Place, after this church, because light shines in the darkness. Not only that, this is a, by the way, aside, we're planning a trip to India, and you're all invited. I mean, it's going to be expensive, but you're all invited. You're all invited. For real, you're invited. The trip is going to be probably sometime in June. There's going to be so much more information about that because I want you to be there and they want you to be there as we cut the ribbon on Grace Place, because light shines in the darkness. All of this was done because light shines in the darkness. And finally, at the start of the year, our church council set a goal of raising $10,000 to buy the medical debt of many people in Cumberland, York, and Dauphin counties. It was an ambitious goal, to say the least. It was a goal that would relieve people of hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars of medical debt. The estimate is about $400,000 of medical debt in Cumberland, York, and Dauphin counties would be forgiven with our $10,000 donation. Well, would I bring it up if we didn't do it? Of course I wouldn't. We raised $10,000, and we can proudly say that for at least some people in this area, for at least some people in Cumberland, York, and Dauphin counties, they won't have to choose between medical bills and bankruptcy, because light shines in the darkness. This is what the Christmas story is all about. It's all about the idea that God was once far away and is now very near. It's about the fact that Jesus came to be among us and with us. It's the idea that Jesus came for all people, every single one of us, not just rich people, not just the seemingly important people, but for all people. Not just the people that look like us, not just the people that act like us, not just for people who love the way we love, but for all people, rich and poor, Republican and Democrat, gay and straight. Jesus came for all people. All of these things that you accomplished this year continue to share Christ's hope with this world. And I couldn't be more proud of this church. Throughout the Advent season, we have been talking about how to live for all to hear, just like Buddy the Elf from the movie Elf. The best way to spread Christmas cheer is by singing loud for all to hear. Grace Church, you have lived loud. You have lived for all to hear in 2024. You have lived to show that there is light in the darkness and the darkness cannot overcome it. Now look, I wish I could stand up here and say that Grace Church has solved every problem in Lemoyne and beyond because of their love and generosity. I wish I could say that. I can't realistically say that, but that's okay because we know that light shines in the darkness. It doesn't get rid of it. Light shines in the darkness, and the darkness cannot overcome it. I can't wait to see what light shines in 2025. And my friends, the best part about all of this is that there's room at our table. There's room for everyone to be a part of 2025 here at Grace Church. So today, this Christmas Eve, and every day, let your light shine. Because the darkness cannot overcome it. Merry Christmas, Grace Church. I couldn't possibly be more proud to be in ministry with those of you who call this your spiritual home. And I couldn't possibly be more excited to welcome others in. There is joy in the world because of your faith. There is joy in the world because of your kindness. There is joy in the world because of your generosity. There is joy in the world because of you. Because of you, there is joy in the world. So, let there be joy in the world in 2025, and may your light shine in the darkness. Merry Christmas, my friends. Would you stand as we sing Joy to the World? So just a quick housekeeping item before we continue with our worship service. If you ordered poinsettias and would like to pick them up after the service, there is a list of orders here. So if you're like, oh, I don't remember what color I got, it's on here. There's a list of orders over here. They're alphabetical by last name, so you can find your order and take your poinsettias. A few years ago, we were singing Silent Night, and I thought, you know what? Everybody in here already knows about the hope that they have in Jesus and in the birth of Jesus on this day. We all know that in here. And so we decided that we were going to go outside and sing Silent Night to a group of people who might not know about hope. So rather than singing Silent Night in here, for the past several years, we have gone on the front steps and we sing Silent Night to our neighbors. We sing Silent Night to the people of Lemoyne to let them know of the hope that we have. So we're going to continue to do that. We have candles that are at the exits, at the back exits, but then I just said the front steps. Come on, man. Over there's candles. Pick up a candle on your way out. Pick up a candle on your way out, and then when everybody's out there, there are the words to Silent Night on the back of the bulletins that you received on your way in. We're going to sing the first 3 verses, then we're going to repeat verse 1, and then we're going to hum a verse, and then we're going to continue this work of sharing hope with the world. So, I'll meet you outside. Everybody grab a candle, bring your bulletin, put your jacket on. It's a little chilly out there, and I'll see you outside. If you're watching online, we hope to be able to bring you what we're affectionately calling Silent Night Cam. So stay tuned for that, and we'll see you outside.
There's Bennett. Here. Over here. Come here, Spear. Come in here. It's okay. Everything's okay. We're going to go hold on to the railing. Come on. Excuse us. There you go. Good job. Carrie.
Everything's set? Okay.
Good job.
Got you.
All right, Brian, you got to keep
as I make my way outside, I am offering some light. And as you offer your light to others, whoever's got the unlit candle, that's the one that tilts. There we go. And you can go ahead and, yep, get everybody's candle lit. Hey. You don't have a candle? All right, we'll get you one. Thank you. Let me get you a candle.
You can, there's a step there though.
Is there someone close to a candle who could grab an extra candle? A couple of folks out here.
Thank you. Yeah, I always do. Okay, here you go, guys. All right.
Thank
Yep,
you.
you poured yours.
There's still people eating it out.
We can step down a step or two. Yeah, we might step down. We can always stick in between. Yeah, hey Jacob, you wanna go in between?
Oh, of course, sorry.
There you go.
Yeah.
All right.
No one here.
We don't let it
Oh man, this is a good looking group right here. Here's fire.
All right, where are we at? Where's Sarah at?
Right here.
Are you coming down here?
Frank, I might be a little bit louder volume, so you might want to turn me down a little bit because this is a big group.
Okay.
One of the coolest things I think about this tradition is the fact that I lit this candle from the Christ candle in front. And this candle is responsible in some way, shape, or form for all of our candles. All the candles that were lit came from this candle, which came from the Christ candle. And I think that there's some pretty cool significance in that, because this candle gave away its light several different times, and yet it burns just as brightly as it did at the start. And I think there's something really cool to be said for that as well. So let's sing Silent Night. Let's sing of the hope that we have found. If there's somebody who's a little bit better musically than me to give us a starting note, that'd be great. Thanks, Marion. And repeat verse 1. And as we hum this verse, hold your light up to remind yourself that the light will shine in the darkness. Let's hum a verse. My friends, the light shines in the darkness, and the darkness cannot overcome it. Merry Christmas to you. I can't wait to see what we're able to accomplish together and with God in 2025. Merry Christmas, my friends. I'll see you soon.
Merry Christmas. No, you're all right. You just have to take our candles in anyway.
They put the down there.